Scrap your education system.
No, the message
Don't
is...
turn up for school.
The message everywhere. I've organised debates now for 6 years in British schools where there is a dearth of debate, and where you should go and learn to put arguments for or against whatever position it is, learn to think, learn to be critical, and stand on your own 2 feet.
What do you want them to do with their educational system?
What I want them to do, as a minimum, if they can't speak, is to feel guilty about not speaking, and wherever possible, speak your mind. That is your job as a student and as a lecturer. Speak your mind.
Nagla Rizk.
I want to answer the young man who spoke about the Egyptian bloggers. They are not a product of freedom of speech. They are a product of education. They are challenging restrictions on freedom of speech. The way our opponents argue is that freedom of speech is positively related to the worthiness of education. I don't disagree. I agree, other things being constant. The motion is not about that. The motion is about the starting point. Zero freedom of speech, zero worthiness.
Okay.
And I argue it's not at the origin, it is at an intercept.
All right.
You do have positive worthiness of education despite restrictions on freedom of speech.
Gentleman in the front row.
Thank you. My name is Ahmed. I'm from Iraq. What's the importance of individual freedom of speech without there being collective freedom of speech? How important is it for me as a student to say I oppose Israeli apartheid without having the ability to organize on my campus to boycott Israeli apartheid?
Tariq Ramadan.
Yes. I really want to thank you for that, because it's not only to be critical towards all the systems, but this is where we have to be today. To be able, in the West, to be critical towards the educational systems, because very often we have a problem also with critical thinking, and even the information. What is taught in our schools in the West is also to be challenged. And it's not only a question of students, it's a question of students and teachers and professors. All should be involved. It's a social discussion that we need. And the second point, which is important, is with the educational system, we need to talk about what is happening in all our societies. The great danger in our society today, the greatest danger in our society is really populism. And populism is exactly the opposite of what we are talking about now. It's a lack of critical thinking. And education promoting populism and not critical thinking is a danger. Okay. So I would say that really education leading us towards this in the West or in the Middle East or everywhere is something that we have to oppose and to resist.
Kevin Watkins, you want to come in here? You've been scribbling furiously.
I don't disagree with a single word that Tariq just said. Of course, we're all in favour of critical thinking in universities. That is what education should be about. That is the purpose of education. It's that sort of critical thinking that gives people the capacity to imagine different futures when they're living under dictatorship.
You're shaking your head. Which bit of that do you disagree with?
If anybody's been to a university lately, they know that they're increasingly becoming isolated, elitist spaces where there is absolutely very much little and very limited connection to real grassroots movements. Throughout the world, historically, revolutionary movements haven't only come from masters or PhDs. They've come from farmers, people that have lived on the streets, people that have never read a book in their lives as well. So education without the freedom of speech to change societies is absolutely worthless.
Listen, this isn't a debate. I agree with you. I mean, the sort of education that's being described is not something that anyone on this side of the table...
You want to play musical chairs. You want to sit on everybody else's side.
The issue here, and here I want to talk directly to the audience on this, that, you know, the proposition that you're debating is on the screen there. This House believes education is worthless without freedom of speech. Now, you know, I work with people around the world, with women who are desperately trying to get their kids into school because they believe in education. They don't believe in the sort of education that Tariq is holding up. They believe in an education that's going to create opportunities and a future for their kids. You want to vote to take that away from them. That's the right you're challenging.
All right, lady up there, you have a question. Yes, you. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm from Pakistan, and my question is to Dr. Rizk. You spoke before about how in Egypt doctors are, their education is not worthless, but if we bring this back into the context of students who are studying in the Middle East, what would you say to students who are studying politics or students who want to become journalists in this region? We use our education as a tool. And so if in class we're not allowed to challenge ideas or to use our critical thinking skills to expand our ideas, then how do you think that our education will be worth anything in the context of the world living in the West as well as the Arab world?
Dr. Risk.
That is a very good question, actually. It becomes more challenging in areas such as journalism and political science than it is in the hard sciences. But I'll tell you, you are studying journalism or political science. Are you restricting your learning process to your books and your teachers? Are you not exposed to the internet? Are you not able to voice your opinion using the technologies that are democratizing everywhere? Do you not have, I have faith in your intellect, in your ability to sift and to selectively go through the information that you need. Is this ideal? No. Would it be better in the presence of freedom of speech? Yes. Is it worthless? No.
I mean, you're entirely right. I mean, the opposition are just basically punning on the word education. They're taking education to mean education with critical thinking and then just saying that that's what will happen if in the best possible world. The difficulty is when you don't live in the best possible world. And the previous speaker made the point about social freedom, but don't dodge the responsibility. In the absence of social movements, the only way of getting to those situations if you as an individual speak up.
All right, the gentleman in the front row.
Mohammed Abdul Malik from Qatar. Who defines the matrix of freedom of speech? Once upon a time there was a mosque who told us to do this and that. Another time, another era, there was a church. Now the freedom of speech, who defines it? Who defines this matrix? Who says
Ramadan,
what's right, what's wrong? Who sets the guideline?
I think it's a good question. It's not our question here, but it's a good question. At the end of the day, we have to go for something which is in our society to be free to question. And from an Islamic perspective, because very often what I got from people talking about Islamic majority countries that in Islam we don't go as far as this. It's wrong. In Islam, according to the Islamic tradition, even when you go to a mufti, when we go to an alim, you question, where do you come from with this answer? So you have to come with this. Freedom of speech is one of the objectives. So if you miss the objectives, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing with the means?
I totally agree with you on this side. However, on the other side of the table, they're talking about something even more noble. If you are serving 1 billion people, they are serving the other 5 billion people or the 6 billion people on the planet. When she says a piece of paper will feed someone, if I give this piece of paper to someone in the street, he can make use of it. However, if I go to him and tell him freedom of speech, they did not reach that in Congo. They did not reach that in some areas of the world. We are still in step 1. So why aim for step 100? We keep it over there. We keep step 100 where it is and aim for it.
I'm sorry. This is why we are not changing anything in many of the Middle East countries. You know why? Because they say it's a first step. We don't have an objective. We don't want to change the society. Let's give the basic knowledge for the people to be quiet. To be quiet means to get the salary and not to come with critical thinking. So this is the point.
Sorry, we are sitting here in Qatar and we are talking about freedom of speech. If you were in Africa, if you were a parent of children who are dying of AIDS, if you have children you cannot feed and somebody talks to you about freedom of speech, you will either laugh or be offended. This is a reality. This is not an ideal world. Yes, freedom of speech is wonderful and we debate it, but I'm not defending governments who use that argument. I am talking from the real world, a world of mothers and children who are dying of hunger and of disease. You cannot advocate freedom of speech. Worthy as it is, it's a different argument.
I'm sorry, you are talking to me as if I was a father of a kid and I want him to go to school. Of course I'm going to this, but we are not talking about this now. We are talking about evaluating education in a society. Are we going for just one, I'm going to put my kid, or I'm going to change the system for my kids not only to get the money, but to be free? Because at the end of the day, to survive is a basic right, but to think is a noble right. And I want novelty. I don't want only basic rights.